totally fine. So we're going to start a new story today. We're only going to work on it for 3 days, which means we're kind of going to go a little bit quick through them. So you want to like kind of keep up. And if you have to, watch the videos again later. But I'll give you time to work on things. It's just that you have to take the time to work on them and not mess around when I give you the time to work. So for today, I got to share my screen, huh? That might help. It's in Google Classroom under ELA. The news story we're going to read is called The Declaration of the Rights of the Child. So it's under ELA, Declaration of the Rights of the Child, and it opens up in Savvis just like all the other things do. Okay, it opens up. On your end, it'll look like this, Declaration of the Rights of the Child, Student Edition, Unit 1. And then hopefully it opens. Mine doesn't even look like it's loading. There it goes. I was like, oh no. All right, so this is what it looks like when you get to this point. Go ahead and just type in the chat. Here, done, good, something like that, just so I know. Maybe about 1 minute. Hopefully it loads for you. We're not gonna we're gonna talk about it a little bit before we start doing anything on the side, any of the activities. So hopefully it loads before we start doing any activities for you guys. Yeah, wait about 30 more seconds and then we'll go ahead and get going. Hopefully this loads up for you. If not, try reloading the page or closing it and opening it up again.
Mine's done loading.
Good.
And it looks like they're on the ground doing schoolwork.
Yep, sounds about right. I don't know exactly where that picture is taken though, but I don't know.
Are these all like true stories and stuff?
So this one is this one's not necessarily a story as much as it is it says right here a public document. So it's actually going to be like, oh, I don't like that color. Blue? Green? That works. It's actually going to be like if we were to read like a really formal document talking about the rights of a child, that's exactly what this is. So we're going to look at the background information first, just so that we kind of get an idea of, okay, come on, there it goes, of what this even means before we read it, because it is going to be pretty formal. It's a little bit difficult to understand at points just because of the formal language of things. So if you have any questions about what a word means maybe or anything like that, please ask, because some of these words can be a bit like legal. So you want to make sure you understand the legalities behind what is going on. So the background information says, in the late 19th century, many countries began to officially recognize that children needed special legal protection. The Declaration of the Rights of the Child, which was adopted by the United Nations in 1959, is the first major international agreement on children's rights. It was inspired by the original declaration written by Eglantine Jebb, a British activist. So before this document, Declaration of the Rights of the Child, there basically children were always put to work, like in factories, in fields, like they just put children to work wherever they needed them. And then people were like, maybe this isn't such a good idea to have children working all the time and like in awful conditions, like the factories they worked in were not good conditions and things like that. And people were like, maybe we shouldn't do that to children anymore. So they came up with this document that basically states the different rights that children get. So things like child labor laws and stuff like that. So that's what this document is talking about, the rights of a child in general. So go ahead.
I wonder if that's how slavery started. Instead of having kids do it, they had like adult people like that do that.
It was they were happening at the same time.
Well,
yeah. So yeah, they kind of went hand in hand. What year did it say that the child labor laws happened? 1959. So slavery had ended by then. So maybe they, I don't know, Mr. Turner, I don't know if you know this or not. If when slavery ended, is that when they started working children harder? Do you know?
I would assume, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to look it up to be for certain, but kind of makes a little bit of sense. But we can look that up after class for sure and figure that out. But yeah, let's look at the author part of this. The United Nations, so the UN, this is still a thing now, is an international organization that's made up of 193 member states from around the world. So 193 countries send people to this United Nations conference to basically discuss world politics versus just country-based politics. So all 193 member states collectively form the General Assembly. The General Assembly meets every year to discuss, address, and make policies that protect fundamental human rights and maintain global peace. One of these policies was to adopt and expand, he has a difficult name, Eglantine Jeb's document, the Geneva Declaration of the Rights of the Child. So these 193 countries sent a representative, or like one or two people, to this General Assembly conference to discuss the rights of a child, and they created this document that we're about to read. Okay, how are we doing? Following that so far?
Yeah.
Good. Go ahead, Nancy.
Children always work. Maybe in the types of the Industrial Revolution, when they could work in like factories.
Okay, so it's happening no matter what. Mr. Turner looked up child labor laws and like slavery and stuff like that, and they were always working. It didn't depend on slavery versus not slavery and all that stuff. So they were always putting children to work before this Declaration of the Child came about. All right, I'm going to close this top part so that it's out of the way. Before we read it, let's talk about a little bit of vocabulary that you're going to see. So on the right, under the essential question, which is the same thing that it has been, we're going to open the first tab, making meaning, and we're going to start with concept vocabulary. So making meaning, concept vocabulary. And I'll give you about 30 seconds to open that one up. Making meaning, concept vocabulary. Hey, how we doing? Getting there? Looks like some of you guys are getting there. Good. Well, what was that comment? Ah, I was like, it was a long comment.
Putting back in the 1500s, they were putting kids to work, getting used to work.
Even in the 1500s. That's so long. So that's like 400 years of solid work for children to be working. And then they were like, maybe this isn't such a good idea. All right. Making meaning, so we're under our making meaning tab, concept vocabulary, and we're going to talk about this stuff first. So just some vocabulary words that we're going to see You can already see on the left in the passage, the words are highlighted. So even as we read, you can always click on them and see the, what's it called? The definition right there if you need it right there. So concept vocabulary, it says, as you perform the first read, so when we read it for the first time, we're going to encounter or see these words. We're going to see entitled, enactment, and compulsory. These are 3 words that you probably aren't super familiar with, which is why they're in the vocabulary, to get you used to words like these. These all have base words. So if these words look unfamiliar to you, which they might, you're going to look at base words that you might know. So you're going to use your knowledge of the inside word or the root word, along with the words around it, so like context clues, to determine the meaning of the word. So here's an example of how we could work that out. An unfamiliar word that you might not know is complementary. Does anybody know what complementary means before we get going? Complementary. Okay. The sentence that it's used in, if we look at it, says, she made complimentary remarks about the tasty food. So the strategy that you can use to figure out what complimentary means, besides reading the sentence and kind of looking at the context clues, is look at the root word or the inside word, the base word. There's a lot of different names for it. But if you look at complementary, it says compliment. Now, if you think about the word compliment, what does compliment mean? If you give someone a compliment.
Like if you give them some advice, maybe.
It could be advice.
Or when you
Compliment
say
would be
something that
like
you like.
a compliment
Okay.
would be like good job or something.
Yeah. Compliments are kind of like you're telling someone that, like, you notice something good about what they did or how they look or something like that. A compliment is praising someone, giving them, saying nice things to them, basically. So if we think about the word complimentary, she made a complimentary remark about the food. We're going to look at the word compliment and think, oh, that's something good. They said something good. So we can conclude on this second part, the food was tasty, which was a good thing. So complimentary might mean something along the lines of you're expressing a good comment about something. So we're going to try this strategy as we read through and see if we can figure out what these words mean. So before we do that, we're going to do the second part right here. You can always confirm the definition by Googling it, one, because you have your computer open. You can always just Google complementary definition if you need help with a word. Or you can, if you're feeling like having fun, go find a dictionary and you do the dictionary, look it up in a dictionary. It's up to you. The part we're going to do with the notebook right here says, for each concept vocabulary word, determine the meaning and indicate the strategies that helped you determine the meaning. So we have 3 words here. We're going to find the meaning of them. There's multiple ways we could do this. Before we even try a strategy, does anybody know what the word entitled means before we even start? Entitled?
Not titled?
You're on the right track. It's kind of the opposite of that.
It's like being titled of something.
Still on the right track. You guys are looking at that root word, I can tell. The title. Someone is titled to something. So we could Google it, like open up a separate tab, Google it. Or because our program does it for us, we can click on the word and see what it means. So entitled, when we talk about legal things, means that you are given certain rights. You're entitled to have these rights. So like civil rights and like the ability to vote, everybody that's a United States citizen is entitled to vote. They have the right to vote. Does that word make sense? You're entitled to do something. You're allowed to do it. Sound good?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. So let's
A certain right.
say that again, Charlie.
You earned a certain right.
Yeah, you earned that right. You were given or earned that right. You have earned or been given the right to do something. So the right to vote. People are entitled to vote. Now that we're talking about rights, I can't think of anything like off the top of my head. You have the right to.
We have the right to remain silent.
That's true. If you get arrested, you have the right to remain silent. So you are entitled to remain silent. Like you are allowed to remain silent. It's part of your rights.
Is that like a order, like to tell them that they have to be remain
No,
silent?
it's not necessarily an order. It's just that you're allowed to do it. But not necessarily an order. Like you're not ordered to do it.
Allowed to remain silent?
Say that again?
Aren't you always allowed to remain silent?
Yeah, you're allowed to. You don't have to talk to the police. There's a whole lot of other legal things that go into that, though. Like, yeah, we're not gonna get too far into that because we can go way off topic with that. I watch a lot of crime shows, so we're just not gonna go down that road. So hopefully you have that definition. It's there for right there if you need it. Let's talk about enactment. This is another one. Any ideas before we click on the word? Enactment. Maybe you go over to the left and read the sentence. It says, in the enactment of laws for this purpose, the best interest of the child shall be the paramount consideration. It's going to be a fun one to read. Any ideas?
Say
Say that again?
Able to do something?
The ability to do something?
Yeah.
Let's look and see. So enactment in this case means that something is being made into a law. So they have gone through the process and enacted a new law. They're creating a law that people have to follow. So we could say it's the creation, right, of a law. They are creating a law, enacting a law.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's kind of all for that one.
Okay.
You're creating a law. Okay, I'm going to close that one, but you can still see it. Our final one is compulsory. I wonder where is that in our thing? Child is entitled to receive education which shall be free and compulsory, at least in the elementary stages. Compulsory. Any ideas about compulsory? Another big one. All right, let's click on it then and see. Compulsory means that it's required. It has to be done. So the sentence that they were talking about, where if you scroll down,
It's kind of not really a law, though. It's like kind of forcing.
it is a little bit. Typically, if it's, especially right now, since this is a legal document, if they're saying it's compulsory, it's probably already a law that they're going to require it to happen. Yeah. Because if we look at the sentence that compulsory is in, it says the child is entitled to receive education, which shall be free and compulsory. So if we replace compulsory with required, you could say it's free and required. So education is free, but you have to go do it, which is still true. So let's go ahead and type that in. Something is required. And you have to do it. Can I go up a little bit? There you go. There's all three for you guys. Go ahead and be typing that out. I'll give you about 1 minute. Alrighty. The next section after the concept vocabulary, so what we just did with our vocab, is the first read section, which means we're going to read through the document first. I'm actually going to play it. I'm going to have the person read it to us. So we're going to listen to it, and then there's a chart to fill out after. It's very similar to the other charts that we filled out when we read it for the first time. So things like, what did you notice the first time you read it? Can you make any connections to the story when you read it? So you're going to want to be kind of thinking about those things as we hit play. I'm going to leave this up right now on the right so that people can finish typing that out while we listen to it for the first time. So just while we're listening, be thinking about what sticks out to you the most. Like, what are you noticing about this document? And then what can you connect to? Because you are a child. These rights are yours. You have all of these rights. So they should connect directly to you, most of these. So be thinking about how all of these kind of connect to you and your life as we go through. And maybe as we go, if something confuses you, maybe make a note about it or write it down somewhere and ask after. And I can go back to that section and clarify what they mean, just in case, because some of these are a little bit legal based. They have a lot of legal words in them. So I want to make sure you guys understand it as we read it. Capiche? Sound good? Alrighty. Here we go. Make sure your sound is off so that it doesn't bounce back and forth. And here we go.
Declaration of the Rights of the Child by the United Nations General Assembly, public document. Background. In the late 19th century, many countries began to officially recognize that children need special legal protection. The Declaration of the Rights of the Child, which was adopted by the United Nations in 1959, is the first major international agreement on children's rights. It was inspired by the original declaration written by Eglantine Jebb, a British activist. About the United Nations. The United Nations, UN, is an international organization that is made up of 193 member states from around the world. All 193 member states collectively form the General Assembly. The General Assembly meets every year to discuss, address, and make policies that protect fundamental human rights and maintain global peace. One of these policies was to adapt and expand Eglantine Jebb's document, the Geneva Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Declaration of the Rights of the Child by the United Nations General Assembly. This Declaration of the Rights of the Child, to the end that he may have a happy childhood and enjoy for his own good and for the good of society the rights and freedoms herein set forth, and calls upon parents, upon men and women as individuals, and upon voluntary organizations, local authorities, and national governments to recognize these rights and strive for their observance by legislative and other measures progressively taken in accordance with the following principles. The child shall enjoy all the rights set forth in this declaration. Every child, without any exception whatsoever, shall be entitled to these rights, without distinction or discrimination on account of race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status, whether of himself or of his family. The child shall enjoy special protection and shall be given opportunities and facilities by law and by other means to enable him to develop physically, mentally, morally, spiritually, and socially in a healthy and normal manner, and in conditions of freedom and dignity. In the enactment of laws for this purpose, the best interests of the child shall be the paramount consideration.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there because there's a lot of stuff that's they've talked about, so I want to just clarify a little bit. This first paragraph here is just saying this document is going to be about children and their rights, and the parents, adults, authorities, any sort of organization is going to recognize that these kids have these rights. So that's what the first paragraph is talking about. Our second paragraph here is saying that every child, doesn't matter who the child is, where they grew up, how they grew up, what they look like, what their religion is, anything, does not matter. Every child gets these rights. They're supposed to. That's why there's laws about it now. And then our third paragraph here says that the reason for this is so that all these children can grow up to be like physically okay, mentally good, morally good, spiritually and socially healthy. So just that they're growing up in a healthy way. So that's what these first three paragraphs are. The rest of these paragraphs are going to be the actual rights that they're afforded. So what I'm trying to say, basically the rights that they're entitled to and what they get. Okay, so let's keep going. Are we good so far? Sound good? Okay. So we're on paragraph 4, just so you know.
The child shall be entitled from his birth to a name and a nationality. The child shall enjoy the benefits of Social Security. He shall be entitled to grow and develop in health. To this end, special care and protection shall be provided both to him and to his mother, including adequate prenatal and postnatal care. The child shall have the right to adequate nutrition, housing, recreation, and medical services. The child who is physically, mentally, or socially handicapped shall be given the special treatment, education, and care required by his particular condition.
Okay, so those ones. Number 4 is just that when a child is born, they get a name and a nationality. So if you're born in the United States, you're given an American or United States nationality. If you're born in Canada, you get the Canadian one. If you're born in England, you get an English nationality. So it's just where you were born. Number 5, they're enjoying the rights of Social Security. That's just the rights to develop well and grow. They give protections to the mother too, because they're the one that was pregnant and had the baby. So there's things that go along with that, but it's basically guaranteeing that a child has the right to get proper food, a house over their head, medical services, and things along those lines. And then paragraph 6 here, any child who is developmentally or just in general disabled is given a little bit more special treatment and education to help them develop healthy as well. Because someone who has some sort of developmental disability is going to grow up differently than someone who does not. So they get a couple extra special protections there to help them get what they need to grow up healthy. Okay, still good? All right. Is me stopping and explaining some helping a little bit? Okay, I will keep doing that. We are on paragraph 7. Here we go.
The child, for the full and harmonious development of his personality, needs love and understanding. He shall, wherever possible, grow up in the care and under the responsibility of his parents, and, in any case, in an atmosphere of affection and of moral and material security. A child of tender years shall not, save in exceptional circumstances, be separated from his mother. Society and the public authorities shall have the duty to extend particular care to children without a family and to those without adequate means of support. Payment of state and other assistance towards the maintenance of children of large families is desirable. The child is entitled to receive education, which shall be free and compulsory, at least in the elementary stages. He shall be given an education which will promote his general culture and enable him, on a basis of equal opportunity, to develop his abilities, his individual judgment, and his sense of moral and social responsibility, and to become a useful member of society. The best interests of the child shall be the guiding principle of those responsible for his education and guidance. That responsibility lies in the first place with his parents. The child shall have full opportunity for play and recreation, which should be directed to the same purposes as education. Society and the public authorities shall endeavor to promote the enjoyment of this right.
Alrighty. So paragraph 7 up here was talking about that as a child is growing up, their basic needs of being loved and understood and cared for in terms of food and housing and all of those basic needs that a child needs, they get those things. And for the most part, the goal of the government is to, as best as they can, keep children with their mother or their family in general. So if something were to happen, they're doing their best to keep children within their family and not in foster care or on the streets or anything like that. So that's the goal of that one. Not always successful, but they try. Number 8 here is about education. This one applies to you guys a lot at this point. You guys are in elementary school, which means that you are required to come to school. It is a law. If you don't come to school, they go talk to your parents basically and are like, why is your kid not here? But school is here for you to, one, learn about society, learn different skills that you're going to need, get social skills to be able to talk to people, and the goal of school is to help you at the end of all of your schooling be a productive member of society. So you go out in the world and you're able to make a difference and do something useful in the world. That's kind of our goal here. I try to make you nice people, that type of thing. Hopefully you're already nice, but you know, sometimes, I don't know. Anyway, that's beside the point. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Do 9, 10, and 11. Here we go.
The child shall in all circumstances be among the first to receive protection and relief. The child shall be protected against all forms of neglect, cruelty, and exploitation. He shall not be the subject of traffic in any form. The child shall not be admitted to employment before an appropriate minimum age. He shall in no case be caused or permitted to engage in any occupation or employment which would prejudice his health or education, or interfere with his physical, mental, or moral development. The child shall be protected from practices which may foster racial, religious, and any other form of discrimination. He shall be brought up in a spirit of understanding, tolerance, friendship among peoples, peace, and universal brotherhood, and in full consciousness that his energy and talents should be devoted to the service of his fellow men.
All right. So those last couple. Number 9, child shall receive protection and relief first. Like if there's like a natural disaster or something was happening, most authorities or people in general are going to get the children to safety before the adults. It's just kind of how it is. I don't know, my mind keeps going to the Titanic. If you've seen the Titanic and like the movie or any version of it, and like the boats are being launched off, they're like women and children first. They're always going to put the children as first priority. So that's kind of what number 9 is talking about. Children are first priority if something goes wrong. Number 10, that you guys will be protected from any forms of neglect, cruelty, or exploitation. So any sort of child abuse, our goal is to get you out of that situation. Any sort of like child labor laws that are being broken, there are now laws that children under the age of, is it 15? Something like that. 15 cannot work because it could potentially put them in danger of physical, mental, or moral development, things like that. And then
mowing a lawn for your grandpa. I do that.
Well, that's different. They mean like an official, like, working. The major part, the reason that this one was made was because children, like, as young, I don't even know, probably as young as 7 or 8, were working in factories and being put in awful situations that was really bad for them physically with all kinds of chemicals and stuff. Children would, like, lose hands and fingers and stuff in the machines. So it's things like that that created those laws. Nowadays, that's not really a thing. And then
They did that to keep them safe.
Yeah, they did it to keep them safe for sure. And then that last one, number 11, is just children should not be discriminated against, like left out of anything. We're supposed to. You got to be nice, basically. Like treat children with respect. That's kind of what the last one is. Okay. So that is, I think that's good. How do you guys feel about that one? Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading the comments really quick. I'm sorry, it's not working very well, Elijah. So, let's go ahead and do that first read part. So I'm going to close the concept vocabulary. We have under making meaning, we have the first read section. We're going to do that part. When you open it up as a little activity, and you can click on that activity to open it up. Okay. So making meaning, first read, open activity. Click on that, and you get a nice little chart to type into. We're going to add the selection title, which is the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Okay, so go ahead and type that out. Are we still good with me as best as you can? Taking that as a yes. Cool, thanks. All right, so we have our title here, Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Let's do this top left box, notice. It says, notice the general ideas of the text. So we're going to answer the question, what is it about and who is involved? We can do this in one sentence, I think at least. So who is it about and what is it about? What are your ideas there?
It's about kids that have had a law to where they don't work anymore for when they're like that age.
Okay, so it's about kids. And oh, I hear the thingy going on. Yeah, Elijah, that's probably going to be a good idea too. Go back and watch the sections that you might have missed. I'm sorry it's not working.
I wonder if they still have, I wonder if they still make kids work like that in other countries, like India and stuff.
They do, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. So it says this, so the United Nations, right? They said there was 193 countries that created this document. There's more than 193 countries in the world. So not every country has really agreed to these laws and follows them. Not all kids are afforded those basic human rights that us in the United States get.
I wonder if that's why a lot of families move to America.
Mm-hmm. It can be, yeah. A lot of people immigrate here or England or Canada, places that have just better opportunities, because where they live, it's just not safe for their kids, really. It's unfortunate. Okay. This part is a little bit on your own. This says annotate by marking vocabulary and key passages that you want to revisit. So this would be where you would go back and highlight something that you thought was interesting, or something that you thought maybe you didn't understand and you want to go research a little bit, or something that you were like, oh, that's a good law, we should definitely keep that one. Something like that. Okay, so you'll go back and highlight something important. Let's say 2 important things.
Like 2 important things that are good for when that are
Yeah, you're on the right track. Just anything that you think is important about this document, go back and highlight those 2 important things. Maybe it's like 2 sentences. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes. Go ahead and go back in.
I'm gonna copy and paste on them. That way I don't have to go back and write.
That's fine. Yeah, you can copy and paste. Or you can just highlight it in the text. You don't even have to paste it onto this thing. You can just highlight it in the document, and I'm A-okay with that. Okay, so take 2 minutes. Highlight the important things you noticed. Okay, highlighting 2 important things. I'm going to scroll down. Talk about the third one, connecting. This one you're going to connect any ideas from the text to what you already know or what you've read or to your own life even. So make 2 connections. Oh my gosh, spell it right. We'll try and make 2 connections to other aspects of, I don't want to say, to other passages or your own life. Okay, so 2 connections on that one.
So on the second one, we can just like write. We can just write highlight 2 things in the passage.
Yep, all I need you to do is highlight 2 things that you thought were important. I don't even need you to type it in the box. Just go highlight the 2 things.
Okay.
Okay. And then for the third one, for connecting, make 2 connections to any other passages that we've read or just anything you've ever read or something in your own life.
Miss Jones?
Yep.
Which paragraph talks about like kids not having to have to go to work?
I want to say it was paragraph 10.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to give you another 2 minutes to do those connection ones. I know I'm going a little bit fast, but we want to make sure we get through what we need to get through.
What's the third one about again? Connections?
You're making 2 connections to any other readings that we've done or that you've done in old grades or anything like that, or any connections to your own life. So how can you connect this passage to other things?
It's kind of a hard one.
It is a little bit hard. Got to make you think, though. That's my job as a teacher. Okay, about 1 more minute.
What if you don't have any connections with?
You can write that if you don't. That's okay. Hopefully, the more we read it and the more we talk about it, you'll get those connections eventually.
Because I can't think of anything.
That's totally okay.
So what do we put if we don't have any connections?
Just write that you don't have any.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I don't think I have any either.
What does the fourth one mean?
The fourth one, respond, means, so it says respond by completing the comprehension check and by writing a brief summary of the selection. So we are going to do the comprehension check. That's another section that we're going to complete. So we'll do that. And then it says to write a brief summary of the selection. Oh. So we can basically say the Declaration of the Rights of the Child told us about. What did this passage tell us about? And the Declaration of the Rights of the Child told us about blank. So you guys go ahead and finish that sentence for me. And then we'll be done with our first read part. We'll do that. Okay, we'll do about 2 more minutes. And then we'll move on to our comprehension check. Okay, so for the respond part, number 4 right there, the 4th section, you're just finishing the sentence that I started there for you. Declaration of the Rights of the Child told us about blank. What did it tell us about?
About
Alright.
children's rights.
Yeah, you can say that. Okay, I'm going to close this one. If you need to see it again, you're gonna have to go finish or watch the video kind of near the end of the video. We got to move on to our last section of the day. So we are still under making meaning. We did concept vocabulary and we just finished the first read. I'm gonna close that section. We're gonna do the comprehension check. This one, I'm gonna talk you through the questions, but your answers are gonna be on your own. This is a part that I'm going to be taking for a grade, so you want to take your time, complete sentences on this, just checking that you're understanding this story. Okay, so there's 3 questions here. This is going to be the last thing that we do today. So I'm going to explain it and then let you guys work until 9:30. Okay? Sound good? All right.
Yes.
So it says complete the following items after you finish the first read. Review and clarify with your group. We're not in groups yet, so it's okay. Number 1 says which
Like
child.
5 minutes?
Huh?
So like in 5 minutes?
No, we're not going in groups until like Monday, hopefully. So here we go. Number 1, which children are entitled to the rights this document sets forth? So you're going to answer in a complete sentence, please. So who gets the rights that this document is talking about? So that's the first one. No need to answer out loud. You guys are going to work on it on your own. Our second one, number 2, identify 2 rights that were defined or described in this document. So you're going to have number 1 and explain. All right. Explain 1 right described. And then you're going to have a second one where you explain another. Oh, I can't spell it when I talk. Another right described. So you need to explain 2. Figure out 2 rights that were given to children based on this document. And write those in complete sentences, please. And our third one, there is a section on this. According to the document, what should children who are physically or mentally disabled be given? This is in paragraph 6. So your hint here, information is in paragraph 6. Answer that one. Okay, so there's 3 questions there. There's all of the hints / explanations, I guess. There's about 5 minutes left of class. I'd like you guys to stay on for those 5 minutes and finish up these 3 questions while you're here. Once you finish these 3 questions, you can head out, and I'll see you at math.